Why does Disney hate Disney? You might think this is obvious considering that he was a conservative and the Disney Corporation today is more left-leaning, at least on social issues. But there is a business element to this that we need to take into account, and an interesting history that has led to widespread misconceptions about Walt's character, in my opinion. This question came to mind when Disney pulled Walt's opening day speech from their anniversary celebration. The speech is fairly short, and in it he says that, "To all who come to this happy place, welcome. Disneyland is your land. Here age relives fond memories of the past, and here youth may savor the challenge and promise of the future. Disneyland is dedicated to the ideals, the dreams, and the hard facts that have created America, with the hope that it will be a source of joy and inspiration to all the world." Now perhaps this is due to him talking about the ideals and facts that created America, and Disney feels that it glorifies a past that shouldn't be celebrated. However, this isn't an isolated incident, as Disney has been censoring a lot of their back catalog on Disney+. Most of the claims were that they were racist or sexist in some way, but they also censored titles for profanity, violence, and nudity. The Deadpool movies aren't even on the service, and they follow modern dogma, so part of this is just them wanting to dumb everything down for children rather than letting parents use parental controls to their liking. It's clear they made a business decision here to keep this service as clean as possible to keep it family friendly. With that said, they're clearly pushing the line that you're supposed to interpret their older films as racist and problematic. They straight up put a disclaimer to tell you what to think about some films. This is basically them just promoting their ideology to normies who don't really think about this stuff that much. But other titles were just too offensive for Disney and are thus not on the platform at all. The most notable example of this is the Song of the South. He was accused of being racist for two main reasons. First, the main black character in the film had a very thick accent, and secondly, he was happy on a plantation. So on the first point, this isn't an over-the-top accent. This is just how black people talked in the South at that time. They even gave some animated characters, like the rabbit in the scene, a similar accent.
Howdy, Brer Rabbit.
Who that called my name? Hello, Uncle Remus.
Appears to me that you was in a powerful bad mood to go to the party.
I ain't going to no party, 'cause I ain't gonna be here. I'm gonna leave this old place.
You mean you was leaving your old briar patch?
That I is.
The place where you was born and raised?
That I is.
You mean leaving for good?
That I... Ow!
Them seeing this as demeaning just shows Hollywood's demeaning attitude towards Southern accents in general. On the second point, this film takes place in postbellum America, meaning he is a free man. The complaint then became that they needed a disclaimer at the beginning of the film to make this clear. But one of the plot points of this film is that he decides to leave the plantation, and needless to say, slaves were not allowed to do that. Then moving the goalpost even further, they argued that this aesthetically makes plantations look good, and we associate plantations with slavery. So even though there is no mechanical association, the aesthetic association means that this film is glorifying slavery by proxy. So in other words, they have no confidence in people's intellectual capacity to factor in context or nuance. We see a similar need for them to regulate people's brains by getting rid of problematic elements of their theme parks. They didn't like the tribal Africans in their jungle cruise ride, so they decided to replace them with monkeys. Great idea. This just goes to show you that no matter how well-intentioned or innocuous something is, you can always find something problematic with it. These are the supposedly racist models that they're complaining about. Now, what problem could they possibly have with this? Well, it perpetuates the stereotype that black people are savages, until the person turns their head to the right and sees a black tourist not throwing spears at people and eating their heads. There are good and bad actors in every ethnic group. The idea that people won't understand this is absurd. Speaking of stereotypes, in an effort to eliminate one, they end up perpetuating another. They made a movie based on this ride, and instead of the tribe being a bunch of violent cannibals, it's all just an act to trick stupid white people into tourism. Because apparently white people like touring violent cannibal tribes. Of course it's implied that they're racist for assuming it's real, which is whitewashing history and reality because there absolutely are violent cannibal tribes in Africa, so the assumption is entirely reasonable. But they're not just focused on race and gender, they're also trying to push environmentalism on people. Now I would consider myself an environmentalist, but they're pushing a fairly primitivist version of it here. They say about the changes to the ride that it's a hopeful spin on the belief that nature will ultimately triumph one way or another. The animals have the last laugh, not the humans. They're implying here that humans are the bad guys and that we should just leave nature alone. But this would clearly lead to us stagnating into oblivion, as civilization would not be allowed to spread or progress. There are various other changes to the park in general, like you're not allowed to say ladies and gentlemen to a crowd anymore, and loosening of the dress codes. But I think you get the picture. They're changing everything to suit their political agenda. Some of these changes might have just been business decisions to keep the park more culturally relevant, but at the end of the day, such changes were driven by ideology. Now, a lot of this would have been done regardless of who the founder was. However, Disney might see themselves as having a particular responsibility due to the company's dark history, in their words. What dark history is this? Well, it's largely due to Walt Disney going after communists in Hollywood. He was one of the founders of the Motion Picture Alliance for the Preservation of American Ideals. This organization blacklisted accused communists in Hollywood to prevent them from filling positions in the industry. It also wanted to go after accused fascists, but there weren't really many of them in Hollywood. The organization recognized that film has a great influence on people and how they view the world. So if an extreme ideology were to get control of the medium, it would be disastrous for America and much of the world, as Hollywood is dominant in many countries. Aside from this organization and the blacklists, they likely also buy into smears that come from a labor conflict in the 1940s. There was a major labor strike against Disney led by Herbert K. Sorrell. He wasn't a part of any existing labor unions operating within Disney. He was trying to take control of them. In fact, the existing union organizer fought with Disney against Sorrell. This is because they suspected him of being a communist who just wanted to use the unions to infiltrate the company and to make it difficult for the company to get rid of them. They suspected him of this because he straight up went around bragging about how he was funded by communists to do all these violent strikes. He even said this directly to Walt himself, so clearly Disney wasn't going to cooperate with him. And in response to this, Sorrell vowed to smear him and his company until they go out of business. This is where the accusations of anti-Semitism, racism, and Nazi sympathies came from, along with rumors of terrible working conditions and mistreatment of employees. These rumors were originally disseminated by accused communist front groups like the League of Women Shoppers, the People's World, the Daily Worker, and the PM magazine in New York. Even though the strike was unsuccessful, the rumors about Disney persist even to this day in left-leaning circles. So yes, the Disney Corporation is making some of these decisions based on business, however poor those decisions may be. And Walt being a conservative definitely doesn't help unskew their bias against him. However, I think more importantly than either of these is that it has become dogma that Disney is a well-known anti-Semite and a Nazi sympathizer. I've even seen some prominent conservatives say this. They're usually neocons, but still. This is despite him making 4 anti-Hitler propaganda films for the American government during the war. Of course, not everybody at Disney responsible for these changes falls for these old smears. Some do it for ideological purity, others just want perceived problems to go away for business, and some want to get back at him for the blacklists. There are rumors that this is going to get worse in the future, trying to remove him from the company's history and labeling him a racist. Let's hope they get new leadership before then, and if not, hopefully the public sees through this as nonsense. Why do you think Disney is going after Walt's legacy? Is it business, ideology, history, or a healthy mix of the three? Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you all for watching and have a nice day.